So you already clicked on the title and you want to know what are the 24 steps to be an alpha to your dog. Let me introduce myself. My name is Raul. I'm the owner of QBN Kennels. I breed American Bullies, but what I'm about to show you today could be applied to any breed across the board. Sit down. Stay right there. Come here. Sit down. Sit down. Stay there.
I'm the alpha. Yeah, with the king in the pack. A-Frame gene in the pack. Correct and clean in the pack. QBN teams with the facts. Killing the game, that's that. What you think that you was gonna do?
Sit down.
Mess with my pups if you want to. We got a dude in the tower that's watching.
Stay there.
What fame is supposed to. We got the power if you want to test us. We'll pull out that iron to dome you. Mind over matter, don't get into chatter, especially if I do not know you. Hold all these breeders accountable now. They'll put it on paper and own you. Stay true with it's on you. Say or do what you want to. This is a lifestyle. Not everyone is really built for this. QBN put it all on the line. You have a reason to be fearing it. It's up to the top. We ain't never gonna stop our boys.
Get up here, puppy. Sit down.
Show them haters where a mirror is.
Hey, sit down, Cafe. Cafe, sit down.
Killed the gang bearing witnesses, so new blood is welcomed in it. Alpha, I'm the alpha. I'm the alpha. I'm the alpha. Yeah, we the king of the pack. A-Frame gene in the pack. Correct and clean in the pack. QBN teams with the facts. Killing the game, that's that. Cause I'm the alpha. I'm the alpha. I'm the alpha.
Fireball, let's go.
Alpha. Yeah, we the king of the pack. A-Frame gene in the pack.
Cafe, let's go.
QBN teams with the
Come on.
facts. Killing the game, that's that. Pave the way for all these newer dudes. Advice given without ridicule. They reach a goal and then they shit on you. The ones that's crowned trying to finish you. Put my money where my mouth is. Guess me and you have different views.
Fireball,
You
come
can't
here.
hear a band
Come here.
Venezuela, North Carolina, and 82. A team full of alphas with different calendars. We're still
Sit
being,
down.
don't get confused. You can lose without being defeated. The title don't make you a different dude. 786 to the 305. Yeah, we got blood all
Down.
over. Fetch my crown and I'll get you a list. It's time QBN takes over. It's up to the top. We ain't never gonna stop our bullies. It's
Stay
something
there.
that's serious. Quality over color any day. Show them haters
Stay
where a
there.
mirror is. Ain't on the Bible above my disciples. I paved the way to my Genesis. Killed the gang bearing witnesses. So new blood is welcomed in it. Alpha. I'm the alpha.
Tessa, come here. Come on. Tessa. Tessa, come here. Come here. Sit down. Good girl. Stay there. Let's go. Letting her roam free. Now the way I correct my dogs, and it's also a way for me to maintain my alpha status in front of them, is by the commands, the way you give them. And also they're able to hear the tone and the seriousness behind it. So she hasn't done anything wrong, but has she done something wrong, I'm gonna go ahead and break it like this. Ah, ah. She looks around, she redirects. So say I wanted her to stop doing what she's doing. I just give her a strong command. Ah, ah. She releases, she immediately redirects, follows right next to me. See? She's the alpha in the yard, but I'm her alpha. You see, and it's not about hurting the dog or physically, doing any of that stuff. It's just about being a step ahead, being smarter than they are, gaining their respect and their trust and their loyalty. Also, if you want to pet a dog, you don't go up to it to pet it, you call it to pet it, or it automatically comes up to you for you to pet. Don't go up to your dog to pet the dog and let him know, give him the idea that you're submissive to it. That's never a good situation. All right, so I'm gonna purposefully walk away here. Give her a call. Tessa, let's go. Immediately redirects. She's already following us. Tessa, let's go. Oh, okay. All right. She needs to poop. Once she's done with that, look. I was wondering. So definitely the poopy is gonna cause some issues at times. Leave that alone. Let's go. Come on. She's walking side by side with me. She might start sniffing stuff and fall behind a little bit, and every now and then I'll just remind her. She just follows suit. All right, so again, fam, I'm not a trainer. I'm not. But I've been around dogs enough to know that they do have a hierarchical way of seeing things, and I've seen them challenge each other. I never allow any one of my dogs to challenge me. If I ever get even the slightest, most subtle challenge, I make a big deal out of it. I think it's been about close to a good year since I've even been tried to be challenged. Again, nobody challenges Latessa in the yard. She's the alpha, and Latessa doesn't even try to challenge me. The reason I have her out here by herself is she is in full-blown heat, as you can see. If I bring out a male, since she's not ready, if I bring out Power, for example, he tries to mount her or do anything, she's pretty much gonna light him up. And so I'm trying by all means not to do that. So that's the reason why I got her out by herself. We're gonna take her back in. Now notice how I'm gonna do it. Notice how I'm the one that goes in first. A lot of times I'll forget. Like, it is human nature, I'll forget and I'll let her go in first. And when I do, she doesn't know which way to go. And it's a reminder that I'm the alpha, pretty much. Tessa, let's go. Come on. All right, so here we go. I come in first. She comes in right after. Fam, once they've given you what you wanted, you can just go ahead and pet them. What I always do is put my head over the snout for a good 3 to 5 seconds. It's just reinforcement, fam, just reinforcement. We're gonna go ahead and get to it, but before we do, I gotta give you this information so you know your dog's mentality. All right, fam, so technically speaking, dogs have evolved from the wolf. So you must understand that the wolf mutated to different breeds based on the climate, geography, and even the environment. As these separate breeds were assimilated and socially integrated into human society, they became distinct as a domesticated dog. So what we have is purebred dogs today may not have the exact same blood as a wolf, but they still share their instincts. And one of these instincts is the pack mentality. Living in a pack out in the wild actually assures each individual dog safety, also companionship. But not all wolves in the pack were equal, who could unite them and dictate rules for the rest of the pack. And this, of course, is the alpha. In a well-structured pack, the alpha has the first and last say. He is the first to eat, he decides the movement of the pack, and the rest simply have to accept his dominance and follow. Submission to the alpha is absolute because he's stronger, more powerful, and wiser. And in the rest of the pack, it makes them understand that he's very difficult to defeat. And this is the mentality you have to instill in your pack or your dogs, letting them know that you're more powerful, you're stronger, and you're wiser in order for you to be the alpha. Consequently, your pack's unity will rely on you being the alpha. You will set the rules and the rest of the pack will follow. So what's the big deal about being the alpha? Well, it's real important because your dogs are going to be looking for you for guidance. You're the one that's going to be leading them. Whenever a scenario or something plays out in front of them, they're going to look to you to be the one that provides them an answer as to which way do we go? What do we do? How do we act? How far can we go? You not only command respect, you're obeyed. Your word is the rule that must be adhered to. And once we show you how to attain it, obedience will become forthcoming and discipline will be a way of life for your pack. First thing we're going to hit is, what does your dog need in order to understand that you are its alpha? They need their masters to be guiding them, caring for them, channeling their energy, and protecting them. Your dog needs all 4 of these to be in balance and understand that it is you who are its true alpha. I mean, let's face it, a lot of times we have owners that abandon their dogs. They use as reference that the dog is too stupid, doesn't want to listen, it's not obedient, or even that the dog isn't trainable. What you must understand is that a dog is an intelligent animal that is not necessarily just a puppet. You must win its respect and confidence before they actually start looking at you like their leader. And it is then that they're going to start listening to you and following your instructions. For every hyper and untrainable dog, there's a weak and ineffective alpha. Just remember that. Without a lead to follow, they cannot be house trained. Without a leader, they are directionless and very undisciplined. In fact, when they don't have somebody to look up to, they're going to end up with antisocial behaviors. How's it going to know how to have manners if you were never effective in teaching them? You never were able to gain their trust for them to follow your instructions. In order to become an alpha, you actually have to have your dog go through a process. You just don't snap your fingers and bam, that's it, you're the alpha. Keep in mind, if you have other family members at home, they must contribute. There's going to be some rules that everybody just has to follow. Now remember, you're trying to present an image to your dog, which is exactly why no other family member can dilute your rules. Remember this, suppose you have a puppy and it nips you in the hand. Immediately, you ignore it. And you leave him at the point where he actually stops. And when he stops, you say no, completely discouraging this type of behavior. However, if another person in the family goes ahead and decides to allow him to nip their hands, guess what? The puppy immediately is going to understand and think that that person is lower on the hierarchy and look at them as lower to them. And thus, the nipping behavior will continue. When a month down the line, they decide they don't want the dog to nip their hands anymore. You and your family must understand that the alpha of the pack has total authority and his decisions are final. This does not mean that you cannot show affection to your dog. What it means is that when you set a rule in pertaining to your dog or pack, everybody in the house must follow it. Now let me break down the whole affection thing because you guys, for whatever reason, got it a little bit wrong. Now, if the alpha wants to go ahead and give affection to one of his dogs, he calls the dog over in order to give it affection. You don't go running to the dog and give it affection and give it the wrong mindset as to who's actually the alpha. If the alpha needs to take his dog for a walk, the alpha leads and the dog will follow. This is why you as the alpha will cross the door before your dog does. Now listen carefully. Being the alpha dog does not mean physical dominance. Understand that. Think of it more as a mental leash that's going to lead your dog in the right direction. Please note that physical punishment will not secure you as the alpha. It's just going to create fear and a begrudging sense of submission. You want to be the alpha for the good of your pet so that you can lead them throughout life. Walk like a leader. Act like you're authoritative. When you talk with a sense of command. Use a firm voice. Don't ask your dog to do something. Tell them to do something. Now remember that dogs are intelligent enough to figure you out whether you're alpha material or not. So in front of them, you got to act like you're the one that's running the show, like you're the boss. There shouldn't be any doubt. If you waver from the way that you talk to them and present yourself, then at that point, they're going to realize you're not alpha material. Look at your dog straight in the eye when you give them a command. Let them know that you mean business. Be straight up, look them straight. Do not waver, and if you can, don't even blink. But by all means, do not look away. If your dog looks at you and defies you, you look at them square in the eye, you don't blink until they lower the gaze and they walk away. Muzzle power. Now, what you want to do is simply, when you're around your dog or you're petting your dog, you want to go ahead and put your hand right on top of its muzzle. It lets them know that you're the one that's dominating him or her, and this puts them in a position of submission. So if your puppy or your dog is doing something that is annoying you, that you don't want them to do or you want them to stop, this is what you do. You completely ignore them. You act as if though they are not in the room. You simply walk around, look around, don't make eye contact, completely ignore. Do not give in to anyone of their pleas for attention. Do not even acknowledge their presence. Do not give him any commands. You know he's going to disobey anyway. This actually lowers your control in front of the dog's eyes. Remember, they're intelligent beings. They know that they're annoying you at this point. But a true alpha would not just give in and give in commands, knowing full well that it's going to be disobeyed. One of the most powerful things is stick to a routine, fam. Whatever it is that you're going to do, whether you're going to feed them in the morning and then later on at night, or if you simply want to go watch TV at a particular time and you want them sitting next to you, whatever it's going to be, make sure it's a set routine and you do it consistently. This will teach them that their obedience actually satisfies you, teaches them to stick to the schedule. It gives the dog a sense of security. They know exactly what's happening And they also know what to expect, what's coming next. And that's what gives them safety. Now, I know a lot of you are going to be yelling and screaming over this one, but I'm going to let you know right now. If you let your dog sleep with you in your bed, he or she's going to be looking at you as its equal. If you're not established as the alpha as of yet, you're really going to have a hard time. Matter of fact, you may reverse the whole alpha status as they now look at you as their equal. This next one is rather logical, fam. Don't start training until the puppy or the dog realizes that you're its true alpha. Next thing you know, you're going to be telling the dog to come back here and he's just going to keep running over to the neighbor's house. Or you tell him to sit and he's just going to get right back up and go drink some water. This is why establishing yourself as the alpha is the first thing that you need to do. This next one, you got to kind of dig and look for it. And when it happens, you got to nip it right in the bud. And that's when the puppy growls. When the puppy growls, you got to let it know that it cannot do that. It is unacceptable. And you do that by the tone of your voice, and you're going to look at it straight in the eye until it looks away. You got to let the puppy know that it does not growl at the alpha, nor at the alpha's children. You got to establish this from the very, very beginning. This next one establishes you as the alpha, first and foremost. Anytime you're going to walk through a door, you go first, not the dog. Now, I will tell you, there has been some occasions that I've forgotten or I've been looking at something and I've let the dog through the door. Best part of it is once they go through, a lot of times they don't know which way to go because they're used to your leadership and your direction. And they actually slow down for you to go ahead and pass them. That's when you know and you're reaffirmed that you are the alpha. Do not rough play with your dog, period. Dogs will instinctively want to rough play, and it's a way for them to figure out a way to ascend up to your alpha spot. Don't ever allow your children, don't ever allow yourself to be horse playing with your dog. If that dog happens to pin you, guess what? You pretty much lost the alpha spot. The one thing you never do is allow a dog to take your space. Don't get me wrong, it will be done subtly a lot of times. A lot of times they'll even be in a playful mood. But whatever inch they gain, playful or not, is an inch that they gain towards your alpha throne. They're going to do little subtle things like want to sit where you're sitting at in the couch and kind of bump you out the way. You're going to think it's cute, but they just gained something. Don't ever feed your dog because he's demanding to eat. You feed him when it's your good time to feed him, whenever it's time for that routine to kick in. Don't ever give in to his demands. Make sure that you master the down command with your dog. And when you tell him to get down, to get all the way down. This is a submissive position. Not only that, it puts them at peace and it lets them know that you're well above them as far as the hierarchy. Stop thinking that size matters, fam. I've seen the smallest of people actually dominate the biggest of dogs. It's all about the attitude that you use. Now remember, if you start treating your smaller dogs as your equals, you put them on your lap because they're so tiny and, it's great to watch TV with them. Next thing you know, they're going to slowly do the same thing as a bigger dog and bump you out your seat. Next, you're going to find out they have no respect for you and you lost your status. This next one, I love to do all the time, and it is that I'll eat in front of my dogs while they're down in the submissive down position. And they're to stay there all the way until I'm done eating. Never give in to your dog dictating when it wants to eat. Under no circumstance do they eat because they barked at you or they let you know one way or another that they're hungry. Do not give in. Also, when you're about to feed them, you have them sit down and wait patiently until you give them the go or the break command. In other words, you have them sit on a corner, you put the food in the bowl, and then whenever you're ready, you give them the command to go eat. Don't allow them to just bum rush you and jump on the bowl the minute that the first kibble hits it. If they don't move back when you give them the command, you take the bowl away. Come back another 5 or 10 minutes later, and until they have sat down and actually followed your orders, you do not feed them. In fact, I do it 3 times over. If by the 3rd time they haven't figured it out, then I'll pretty much take the bowl away and we're going to wait about an hour before we even try anything else again. Now, fam, don't get me wrong. Go ahead and love on your dogs. Just don't pamper them to the point where they disobey you. To be an alpha is what you call in parenting parlance tough love. Give them tough love. Be firm. Go ahead and love them, but you must always be firm. Also, don't baby your dog to the point where it's afraid of a mouse. It's a dog. So how do you pet your dog? You got to realize a true alpha in its pack, usually all the other dogs are fussing and fighting for its attention. Say, for example, you got a puppy. Now, you want to grab the puppy and you want to cuddle with it. You don't want to do that because cuddling is actually subordination. And if you subordinate too much and you leave the training for later on down the line, you're going to set yourself up for failure as you're going to lose the alpha spot. So here's an example. You have your pup, you have them sit down. Then you call them over. When they come to you, then you go ahead and pet them. Say that same puppy is just walking around and he comes to you wagging his tail. Don't drop everything that you have in your hands and put yourself down on your knees and give him all the attention in the world. He didn't basically have to work for it. He just looked at you, wagged his tail, and you subordinated immediately. What you do is you tell him to sit. And then once he gives you that, you just go ahead and pet him. Learn how to pet your dog and submit your dog from the very beginning. Make sure you go ahead and turn them over on their back. And you go ahead and put your hand and rub them up and down, all the way from the chest down to its belly. And therefore, you shouldn't be listening to any type of growling or any other behavior rather than the puppy actually enjoying you doing this. Again, you're doing this from the very beginning. You're making it a routine, and the dog is learning to submit from the very, very beginning. Psychologically, you're gaining an edge. If you start this from when they're a pup, you're going to have the psychological edge all the way until when they're adults. They'll give you the belly, they'll even turn their head and give you the neck, showing you complete, utter submission. So here's a problem that I've been written to by a lot of you. So I'm going to show you how to show dominance over the dog, even though you have other family members that are not necessarily the alpha. So you may have a dog that actually submits to you, but he runs down your daughter, bumps her, or simply treats her like she is inferior to him. Remember when I said from the very beginning that the entire family has to be able to follow your rules in reference to whatever it has to do with the dogs? Here's where all this comes in. When you give commands, whether it is through hand gestures or in a particular tone, you want to be able to establish something that stops an action, such as no, whatever it may be. Whatever noises you make or whatever it is that is established, you want your family members to be using it as well as you in order to let the dog know that you want them to cease and stop immediately. The other thing that you're going to start doing is you're going to have family members taking turns as far as the feeding routine. This lets the dog know that they are superior to him and higher in the hierarchy. Also, let them go ahead and take the dog out for walks. Make sure that they're the first ones to cross through the door before the dog does. Again, reestablishing that they are higher in the hierarchy. I'm going to tell you 3 things that the dog is going to do in order to try to establish his dominance over you. It's either going to growl, it's going to completely ignore you, or assert himself in giving you a command like barking at you and nudging at you to feed him now. You don't give in to any one of these 3, ever. Do not give your pets treats unless they actually done something and earned it. Don't just give it to them because they look pretty. That's not the way it works, fam. You only give treats whenever the dog pleases you by following your command. Don't ever give a treat to a dog that is misbehaving. Under no circumstance do you let a dog walk in front of you on a leash. You want him walking next to you. If he ever decides to go in a direction that you have not given him permission to, turn around and go the opposite direction and give the leash a tug so that he comes in your direction. Purposefully confuse him by not going in his direction until he starts looking square at you for guidance. Once you got his attention, walk in a way where you allow him to walk next to you. If he decides to yank in a different direction, you immediately stop, go the opposite direction, tug on the leash so that he comes back in your direction. And again, do it all over again until you confuse him and he starts looking again for you for guidance. So one of the things that you want to do even in play is you want to give your dog a roll, and you always want to be the alpha of the roll. In other words, you could grab a ball and you could roll it or throw it out there. You want him to grab the ball and bring it back to you. You don't want the dog to just go off running on its own, doing whatever it wants with the ball. Once the dog does bring the ball back to you and the game is done, you always want to end the game where you are the sole master of the ball or the stick. You grab the ball from him, you grab the stick from him. He doesn't want to let go of the stick, even if it means you got to raise him up in the air. You got to let them know that you're always stronger and more powerful. Nip things in the bud now, especially when they're younger and they're pups. Don't wait until they're older to do it. They can still learn, but it's going to be a lot harder for you. Fam, be a fair alpha. If your dog misbehaves, go ahead and punish him. If he rectifies, go ahead and reward him. Show him affection when he deserves it. The idea behind being an alpha is for you to be in control. It's not for you to be feared. What's not part about being an alpha? Do not waver on your routine or disciplining your pet. They're going to see you as weak, and they're going to start manipulating you. As much as you love your dog, never treat them as your equal. This means that you've diluted your authority and you've given your dog avenues to misbehave or even challenge you. Do not physically punish your dog. It's just going to make him more stubborn, and pretty much they're going to give you the hand, and that's all they're going to listen to while you're talking to them. Don't end up screaming out of frustration. that means that you're out of control. Your dog immediately knows that you're not the alpha, because alphas are always in control. Using isolation as punishment can be very cruel. Not only that, you're actually going to enhance your dog to want to howl or bark or do something else that's even more annoying. Just like there's a reason for reward, there is a reason for discipline. Now, when you get to discipline, there's a big difference between being harsh and being firm. If you don't know what they are, I suggest you go to the dictionary and you find their definition. Fam, this has been Raul from the Q. I hope this video has been able to help you. If you liked it, go ahead, subscribe, give us a share, leave us a comment. Catch you on the next one.